I had a project that was sponsored by a snowboard company, and what they wanted us to do was to test their different snowboards to better understand the performance characteristics of their boards. One of the things we did was that we instrumented their snowboard with what are called strain gauges. Strain gauges are small instruments that measure the stretch of the material. By fastening these gauges to the snowboard, and as the snowboard deflects, this will give us an indication as to how much they stretch. So by placing these at opportune locations all across the board, we laid 6 of them out here on the snowboard, you can then get an image of how this snowboard is deflecting as it's being used. We also added a accelerometer. An accelerometer measures vibration. It measures how much that this snowboard is shaking. We then took all of these and through this umbilical here connected to a laptop that was carried in the professional snowboarder's back, in a backpack. And then we went down the mountain and in the half pipe in order to measure how much this board was deflecting and get a sense of how the snowboard was performing. Once we then took this information, we were able to go back into the lab and get a better understanding of the way the multiple snowboards were deflecting depending on the different materials in the board. So let me just take a minute to explain how a strain gauge works. Basically, a strain gauge is a stamp that has a wire running through it that squiggles back and forth like this. And this you then take and fasten to the snowboard. And as this stamp stretches with the snowboard that's deflecting and stretching, then the resistance in this wire, so there's current running through the wire, so as this stretches, the resistance of the wire causes the current of the electricity going through it to change. And that's what we actually measure in order to get a sense of the strain, the amount of deflection of this, that this whole thing stretches. That's how we get a result from it that we can measure on the computer. And what you'll see in a second here is the actual squiggles of the amplitudes of that change in current that you see on the strain gauges. What you see in this picture, this is a picture from our actual testing that we performed at the mountain. And what you see here is the professional going through the half pipe, and he's actually getting air and as he's jumping out through the half pipe. This is actually me standing here watching him. But what you can see is the snowboard is here, and you can see that cord, which I call the umbilical, that's going up to the backpack where the laptop is collecting all the information. Down here, this is a map of the data we were collecting from the different strain gauges in the accelerometer. Each color represents a different strain gauge that we placed on the different spots on the board. And so as that board is stretching and flexing, as he's going down through the half pipe, we're getting different strains that we're reading off of the board.